Hi, welcome to Observations.
Amelia Fulmer was a music teacher at Flagler Schools for 31 years, and I have her with me today as a guest on Observations. I'm Brian McMillan, Executive Editor of the Palm Coast Observer. Welcome, Amelia.
Hi, nice to be here.
So you said before we started here that you taught some of the community leaders or business people as when they were children in musicals. So I was wondering if there's anybody that you could embarrass, tell any stories about when they were young on stage in costume.
Oh, goodness. You're putting me on the spot here. Well, I don't know if you know J.B. Burney, Jackie that would work for the Observer. She now's working somewhere else, I think. Jackie, her new last name, she used to be Jackie Beckett for me. Caitlin Hutzel. There are a lot of kids around that I can still see them in their costume.
Very good. And they went on to successful careers. Wonderful.
Well, I think I can tell you that being on the auditorium stage at a young age, I know it made a difference because they got on stage when they were too young to know better.
Yeah.
And they have stage presence. And I see that in their adult life is they've taken that. They never knew what it was to be nervous.
Yeah, you learn something just by being stuck out there. Amelia Fulmer has also been the director of the Flagler Auditorium since 2019. And so that's kind of more what I want to talk about all of it today on this show, but with all you do for the auditorium, do you ever get to actually watch the shows? Are you too busy scurrying around, or?
I usually watch the shows, and if I'm lucky, sometimes I get to watch the sound checks and the rehearsals, so I kind of know a little bit about what's happening before the show starts. I do get to see quite a few of the shows. And I do so much studying the shows because we want to do marketing and advertising. And, last year we had Marilyn McCoo and Billy Davis, so I read the book about their love affair, and I was excited about them showing up. Just like we have Darlene Love on December the 11th, and she's coming. So I've been studying all the movies she's been in and learning about her music. And I have her on my playlist, and when I go for my walks in the morning, I'm learning all the words to the songs. That way I'll enjoy it a lot better when they come, and I can find some commonality with them.
Very good. So Darlene Love is a Grammy winner, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, and she's performing on December 11th.
Yes.
So you've said to me that this is kind of a big show for the auditorium. Why is this one a big deal for you?
Well, Darlene Love being a headliner is fairly expensive, and she also requires a lot of backline, which means a lot of instruments that we have to rent. And it's Christmas show, so she wants snow, she wants big bells and chimes. She's bringing 16 performers.
Wow.
So she's bringing a full band, and she has backup singers that really know what they're doing. Sometimes you get bands that bring a backup singer that they found, the drummer will do the backup singing. But Darlene Love was a backup singer. She was a backup singer for Elvis and Sam Cooke. And she sang with Cher, she sang with Bette Midler, she sang with Bruce Springsteen. She knows what it is to be in the back. So, she'll be singing along, and if it's wrong, she knows right away, and she's going to call them on it. So you know that everybody in her entourage is perfect, and they're going to bring it. They wouldn't be there if they weren't fantastic.
In the press release that the auditorium sent out about the show, it said that Bette Midler gave a tribute to her when she was elected to the Hall of Fame in Cleveland. I thought that was pretty cool. So you've been in schools for decades. Sorry, I know. Sorry about that.
Still young at heart.
That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. As soon as it's past 20, then it's decades, or past 11. What has changed since you were a new teacher in the schools?
I think communication is not what it used to be.
What do you mean?
Between parent and child and teacher. I think it's very difficult for teachers to find the time to build relationships with parents. Because
teachers are busier than they used to be?
They're given less time.
Okay.
I know when I left high school, I had less time to make phone calls and plan. It was early in the morning. That was much more difficult.
Yeah.
And I think parents are so busy. You have a lot of parents that work 2 jobs and they don't have time to get to know the teacher. And it would be so much better if teachers could reach out to them when things are going well And so that's an issue I think was even there, has always been there.
Yeah.
But I think it's been worsened by people's busyness and working and not being able to reach out and know who is with your child all day and really know that person and trust that person and know that they're going to do the right thing by your kid.
A teacher said recently, I heard through one of my children, said that their teacher said that after the school day is up or after a certain hour, they do not check any school email and don't do anything like that because that's what their contract is, and some people feel a little bit like they're taken advantage of if they have to then work extra beyond what the contract is. Can you sympathize with that, or do you feel like as a teacher you just have to do what you...
I'm here as the director of the auditorium, but when I was a teacher, no, I worked all the time. I never did that, but I understand why sometimes you need to take some time for yourself. Mm-hmm. But I was a chorus teacher, so when you're a music teacher, that's your second family. You have the same kids for 4 years in a row. So they become, you have them from 14 to 18, and a child changes so much in those 4 years. And so, you have to have your phone line open to parents and students because you've got to get them to performances and things like that. So I never experienced that, but I know that some teachers absolutely have to because they need to have time for their own family.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you can get a kid to like you from 14 to 18, then you must be doing quite well. What does it mean to you to see Flagler alumni succeed in the professional arts world?
It means a lot, but I have to say, it means more for me that they become a successful adult and they know how to work with other people.
They use their stage presence for whatever career they're going into.
Oh yeah. Well, I can go on and on about how arts create workplace skills.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to hear a little bit about that. Okay. What, for example?
Well, performing, you have to have guts. Mm-hmm. You've got to be resilient because you're not always going to get the part you want. You have to show initiative. You got to go and get your music, close the door, put down your phone, and learn your music. Mm-hmm. And you have to have tenacity. You have to stay at it all the time. I like to call it grit. Mm-hmm. Guts, resilience, initiative, and tenacity. I preached it many times when I taught. And it also teaches leadership. Music leads the way. It teaches students how to work with each other, and that's what they're going to need in their jobs, and how to be sensitive with each other. Because in music, somebody plays a wrong note, and you got to be there to tell them, but you got to know how to be sensitive. You have to be honest, but you have to be sensitive. So I could almost go for an hour or so about how music makes stronger communities and it makes stronger kids. Sports are very similar too. Yeah. But music has some very unusual things because of the guts part, getting over those nerves.
You need more guts to be in the arts than in sports?
No, I think they're the same. I would never say anything bad about sports because we all kind of ride in the same lane. Yeah. We really do.
What was your relationship with art when you were in high school, and what is it like now? Like your personal experience with art that you choose to consume? Well,
I taught children when I was in high school. I taught 5th grade choir in my church. So I started very young at teaching. I played the piano in high school for my high school choir. I even rode with my high school teacher to the middle school to play the piano for the middle school kids. So I was teaching choir back when I was 14 myself, pretty much, because I was kind of a team with the teacher. So it's a very different experience. But I think once you get in there and you start performing and you start working towards a goal together and singing or playing an instrument, it's very much the same as it's always been.
And you still love it?
I still love being part of it.
You don't want to be a teacher again?
No, I love teaching. I love teaching, I really do. And I would teach tomorrow if you asked me. Yeah. But I saw an opportunity working with the auditorium to be a strong advocate for the arts teachers. Because in Flagler schools we have about 35 arts teachers. And it's not quite enough to have a supervisor, and I don't want to supervise any of them. But I think that we can do a better job of being advocates for the music programs, and the auditorium gives a platform, and the auditorium also we do these shows, and if we can pay Darlene Love, and we can pay the back line, and if we have any money left, it goes to Flagler Arts Education programs. And it goes to help those be better. Plus the auditorium itself helps it be better.
So let's talk more about the auditorium.
Okay.
If someone is typically at home on the weekends, they're watching Netflix, what is your pitch to say, get off the couch and come and see a show at the auditorium?
There's nothing like live performance, because when you go to a live performance, you get to see everything that person's brought to the table. When you see it on television or videos, most of the time that's been edited out. So there's nothing like a performer performing a piece of music or something they truly believe in and working to try to bring you in, and they bare their soul to you. And you don't feel that when you're on television. That's recorded. It's for you when you come to the auditorium. And it's also a great way to see your friends. It's a great way to see other people, especially if you don't get out much. You need to come out and see us at the auditorium, because it's a great place to be. It's a positive place to be. Should never be lonely. Come to the Flagler Auditorium.
Netflix isn't a good enough companion?
No.
Okay.
No.
So the auditorium's events sometimes double as fundraisers. Beyond just the shows, and the surplus goes for that, but you've invited groups to come and have sort of block parties in front of the building before the show, things like that. Why do you think that's important, to be connected to the community as a whole through those events?
The original bylaws of the Flagler Auditorium and our purpose, in the purpose, it was written for us to be an advocate for the community. There's an entire list of, not just for ourselves, but for the whole arts community, and also for arts education. So if people don't know we're about the community, then what are we there for? Mm-hmm. The arts serve the community. The arts serve the people of Flagler County. It's not the other way around. We don't say, well, the county needs to spend more on the arts. We shouldn't say that. Mm-hmm. We should say, how can the arts serve the county? Right now, we're sitting here. This is an art. The radio station's an art. Every creative ad we see in town is an art, and we forget that the arts drive the economy in this county, and it's not just a show on the stage.
I do like to think of this podcast as an art form in and of itself. Just kidding. But what is your advice to parents who might struggle to get their kids interested in art? If they feel like maybe I'm a sports kid and I think I'm not an arts kid. What do you do to introduce somebody to the arts?
I think you have to give them the opportunities, and you have to find the opportunities. Sadly, they don't always find you. You need to think about what you enjoyed as a child. Your child may enjoy that, and if they don't, you find something else. But I think there is a dip. It goes really well and you love it, and then there's a dip and everything like that. So you have to keep pushing through. Mm-hmm. So my advice would be, if you said, well, my son tried violin and they didn't like it. Well, did you get past that bad part? Did you get him through the dip and get him to the concert? Because the concert is the mountaintop. So I would say that's a mistake people make a lot of times. They get their kids involved in music or art, and they don't struggle to get them through that valley, so they can get to the concert and get to the mountaintop experience. Mm-hmm.
I had a professor tell me one time that, talking about poetry in particular, but saying that a lot of people say they don't like poetry, but there's such a huge variety of what poetry means, mm-hmm. that it's probably just that you haven't read the right kind of poetry that you would like, because it's such a versatile thing. And I think that's another way to kind of maybe expand your idea of what art is, because there is a lot, just like you're saying. So last question is, what is your vision for the auditorium's future? What is it going to be like in 10 years or 20 years?
Well, I hope that it's still existing the way it is now. In 1991, when it opened 30 years ago, I don't know if they thought it would have accomplished what all of it's accomplished now. So I have to believe that we will continue to raise children in the arts and be a place where we bring national tours, and our children can succeed not just in the arts, but they succeed in what the arts can bring to their lives. And we continue to make creative connections to each other. The business side of the auditorium sometimes can be a tough side. A lot of people don't quite understand that the auditorium is owned by the school, but it's actually run by Flagler Auditorium Governing Board. And the members of that board have to be strong. And the people in that board govern what happens in that auditorium. The school district, as long as they continue to have the commitment to the arts and arts education, the auditorium will continue to thrive. In the month of November, we've had 600 kids perform on that stage in just this November. And the ticket sales all go right back to those programs. And because we have the Division of Cultural Affairs has helped us with building on to the auditorium. So maybe at some point they'll build on a little bit more. We're working very hard to maintain what we have. And I think because we have performances that we always have the need to be better. Every time you bring in a Darlene Love and she asks for certain lights or certain equipment, it drives us to find the funds to make things a little bit better. I've met many children who have come out of the Flagler Auditorium that they went into college and found out their college theater didn't have half of the things that they were used to in high school. They thought that every high school had that. We had Jill Vanderoff come back and perform, and she went to Elon in North Carolina for music theater. And they were all there. She brought some friends too that had performed, and we were all talking about, we thought everybody had this. We had no idea that you didn't just go, there's a microphone, thanks for the work and the microphone and the spotlight and the fly space. And
they didn't have Jack Nieberlin at the...
Exactly, Jack Nieberlin. I have to say, the Flagler Auditorium, if we can keep the team approach that we have now, everybody works really hard and loves the auditorium and loves what they do. I have a very small staff, but they're very dedicated. And without that, it would not be going the way it's going. So we love it.
Well, I don't know if when you started teaching here, if you thought that someday you would be the director of the auditorium, but I think Flagler County is lucky to have you. And December 11th, Darlene Love, so get tickets if you want to see Darlene Love. And thank you for joining us on Observations, and make sure to subscribe and hit notifications to not miss any more interviews with local leaders.